podcast where we talk or we transform adversities into triumphs, illuminate the extraordinary potential within all of us. I say
Mm.
this word extraordinary. In fact, the people I talk to are just ordinary people, but they have done something extra, and we call them extraordinary. I'm your host, Thomas Carrier. I'm a resilience coach, a ultra marathoner, and a firm believer in your next powerful chapter. This podcast is a companion to my upcoming book, Resilience Plus Rise 26.2 Transformative Miles to Unleash Your Marathon of Life Mindset, coming April 2025. Here we amplify stories of hope, perseverance, and success to inspire your journey. Today's guest, I'm excited, inspired. I mean, I could use a lot of adjectives, a lot of verbs. I was thinking what could be the apt way to recognize this personality. I would say it is from heartbreak to hope.
Mm.
Here I'm having conversation with Rachel Beck. She is a woman whose life story is a testament to the power of resilience and the beauty of the unforeseen. Rachel's journey has been marked by early loss, cross cultural adoption, health challenges, but all these has shaped her to be the beacon of hope, and she's the champion of many, many. So, without wasting much time, let's just jump to Rachel. Rachel, welcome to the show.
First of all, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I'm deeply humbled. And thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm very grateful.
I know you have got, I should not say well, you're welcome because that seems to be so small word,
Mm.
but it's an honor. It's truly an honor. So I know that you've got a lot of following. You have got people who know you through your media, through the podcast that you do as an author, as a social entrepreneur, touching and making a difference in people's life and their existence, to be more precise. But for the benefit of the listeners, let's start with a simple question. Who are you?
Who am I? That's a really good, deep philosophical question. I've been trying to figure that for a long time, and I'm still working on it. I think we're all growing, and evolving every day. I was taught when I was 18 years old, the minute I stopped growing as a human being, I become stagnant. I'm a lot of things, but why am I here? I have been trying to survive since I'm 2 days old, and I am here to help as many people as I can on this planet.
Okay. So if you could take us through the journey in a short, I know there's a lot for people to take in because if you're talking right from the time you were 2 days old and to
Mm.
now, there would be a lot. But if you could just touch on few key points that made you who you are.
So my journey starts in India. I was born in Tamil Nadu. My mom died 2 days after giving birth. I am looking for my biological father. I was put into the home of the founder of the orphanage. It was the 70s, it was just in the process of being built. And I was adopted by a couple who were New Yorkers. And it is, like you said, a cross cultural adoption because I am an Indian Jewish woman, which is not very common, but there are synagogues in India that I hope to visit next time I'm there. And I have sat down and had dinner with other Indian Jews. And a rabbi actually sent me a book on the history of Jews in India. So it starts there. It's not easy. My life has not been easy. I have I live in survival mode every single day. I'm a huge, huge advocate for mental health because I had PTSD, and I'm not quiet about that because the only way to help end the stigma around mental health is to have those discussions.
Okay. And what else has transformed you to be the person, to be the advocate, a flame bearer for many?
I chose mental health. I work on a couple things every single day. One of the reasons why I get up every day is I have I'm working on something that hopefully one day I'll be able to achieve. And I never forget where I come from. That's never ever gonna change either. So a lot of the dreams that I'm working on have to do with India, have to do with the orphanage I come from. So I have this, I think right now in this world, in this country, people are suffering. Right?
Uh-huh.
What they need now more than ever is an encouraging word. People are feeling extremely alone and scared. And I always tell my network they're not alone. And ironically, I read the paper every day, and I read an article the other day in the newspaper, and they were actually talking about how loneliness is on the rise right now. It's not decreasing. It's actually, and I was very surprised. This is, excuse me, a well-known paper, and that they had put an article out
Mhm.
about it. I believe we as human beings can do better.
I True that, and specifically when I'm just listening to your conversation, when you talk about community, I during my podcast, that's one of the common threads which has been coming across is building up a community, and that's one of the reasons why I have the podcast. Because again, I have amazing personalities where people feel, can I approach that person? But what I have come across is that yes, people are approachable. All you need to do is just ask, can I just come in your shade?
Mm,
And the other day I was fortunate to talk to a gentleman who was talking about there is a concept of being alone and there is a concept of being lonely, and these two are two different things, and we do not. And again, I had another person who talked about being sad and being depressed,
mm.
and that's where a different various lines work towards. But coming to the element of community, I for me it is always a belief is that we all are angels with one wing. It's only when we hold another that's when we start soaring higher, what we are meant to do. The purpose becomes better. So when I'm talking about purpose, for me an ideology, or I could call it as a judgment also, is that a true purpose, from what I'm hearing from you, is that there is this purpose is so strong, so paramount. It is your life in its own way. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm, but I
You're
believe,
correct.
yeah. But the purpose always comes from a deep rooted pain. It is what I say, as for what Rumi said, is that the light shines from our deepest of wounds once it's opened. So, what led you to this purpose, Rachel?
That's a really good question. My purpose around mental health, or what I'm really trying to achieve, because I'm working on both of them. So I've had five parents. Okay, I've had the biological mom, biological father, foster mom, and then my parents who adopted and raised me. Every single one of them made a conscious choice of picking me, wanting to help me, I was borderline comatose. Like, the founder of the orphanage actually was on a missionary, and she's a nurse at the hospital. She saved my life. There's So I stand on the shoulders, of five people who said yes to me and said, "Okay, your life is worth saving." But in my mind, it's okay. They saved my life. Now, what am I going to do with it? I have tremendous amount of guilt that my mom died giving birth to me. That is something that I think about every single day. So I'm not gonna let her life. It. I'm gonna honor her and my parents and my foster mom. It's a very heartfelt.
Hmm.
It's very heartfelt when people say they hand you to them and say, "Hey, can you take care of her?" So I feel like I've had four near death experiences in my life. I shouldn't even be here today.
Oh, okay.
And and I know that I'm still here because I'm not done. I'm not done with this helping as many people as I can. I'm not done with using my voice for good. I will only spread kindness and positivity and love across this world. And right now, and I'm an empath and I can feel it, the world is trembling, meaning you can feel people's anxieties, you can feel their fears. My network, 99% of them are struggling right now. It's very serious. And what people don't understand is being an influencer is a major responsibility. I love my network. We're like this. Some of them have been with me since day one. It is deep rooted relationships.
So, guys, whoever is listening at this point of time, I will be putting out Rachel's connections on in the comments. Please reach out to her. If not anything, go through her post. It would be, for me, it was quite transformative. I come to my, thanks for that, Rachel. So I come to my next particular question is that, yes, we are seeing there is a lot of, I would say, upheaval or
Mhm,
vibrations. There is a lot of anxiety.
mhm,
And what you're doing, from what we talk about, how many 4 billion people in the universe, and when we are trying to help, it's that story of a boy finding the shells on the beach side, and he starts throwing it back to the ocean, and the father says, how much can you help? So he says, at least that one shell made a difference. So when you mentioned about your near death experience,
mhm,
okay, what was going on in your mind? Was it that if I survive, I'm going to help? Or what really pivoted? Because one near life experience, near death experience can be traumatic, but
mhm.
four of them,
Four,
how did you manage?
four.
Sorry, it's,
I was, you know what? Each one. No, that's a really good question. Each one, and no one's asked me that before. I think it's a phenomenal question. Each experience was different. Each experience was life changing.
Mhm.
Um, some of them were peaceful, and some of them are downright scary. Some of them were very scary for me. And I think that you know people who have NDEs, near death experiences, we're very different people. We don't do drama, we don't do gossiping. There's certain things that bother people might not affect us because we've been there. We know, okay, this is not as serious. What I try to do is to combat all that anxiety and what you're talking about, the vibrations, is to be a sense of calm. And
Mhm.
I work my network, like I work very hard to keep 250,000 people calm every single day. And that's what people need right now. They need that deep breath in, deep breath out, a sense of peace and calm.
Reminds me of um, Marianne Williamson, where in Return
Mhm,
to Love, she talks about is that end of the day, it is about the love that you give and being aware about your own being. And then also she says it's not about the drama, it's not about how you look, how what happens around it. It goes more than that, which is a very interesting element. Is that in today's world, whether we are keeping up with the Joneses or whether we are keeping up with our job or keeping up with our mortgages or any of these
Mhm.
particular elements. So when you talk about it, Rachel, is that you got to breathe and just be calm. For a lot of people, that may be sounding very gibberish
Mm.
because they have not seen anything further than the mindset they have got themselves in that vortex. What could you tell for them to elevate themselves from this in the word of Hindi it is Maya, the illusion, the world of illusion. How can a person break that particular element? Because the reason I have come to this question is that when you mentioned about NDE,
Mhm.
I've had another person also talking to me about it, and they say that your mindset totally changes. And for me, I always believe that if life has taken you to that particular path, there is a reason for it. So, what would you say to these people? And also, if you could uh, s- give us a little more insight about not about NDA, but what were your feelings that came after that experience? In fact, after the fourth one, and how you are impacting the quarter million of your followers about what you say.
It's a conscious choice every single day. I have every reason, and I've been told this. I have every reason that I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be surviving, because of the amount of pain and trauma I've experienced in my life. But it's a choice, right? So every day I get up. I make that choice. I make that choice to be positive. Does it mean that I don't have days that are hard? Of course I do. We all struggle with things. But it's I still remind myself, this is the path that I want to be at. This is the path that I'm going to walk on. So when everything negative is flying at me, it's my calmness and positivity that helps me get through everything. It's a choice, and I can see those moments. The moments where I said, "Okay, I don't have the strength anymore to do this because of everything I've been through," and so
Hmm.
I've had to physically put my feet on the ground, stand up, and remind myself that I need to keep going. It's a choice.
Again, I would say about the our common human would say that she's got that sage-like attribute. It could be still, she say maybe struggle. So if it's a struggle for her, what about a common person like me? So what would
There,
you say for that?
I would say to that person, and when I go in and I speak places, I do talk to people about this. It's what do you want for your life? What are the choices you're gonna make? I'm the most. I mean, I stand in front of a quarter million of people, and I've told my network this many times. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I have flaws. I can write down every single flaw that I have. And that's part of growing and recognizing and working on yourself and doing the work that's necessary. So I would say to the people out there who are struggling, you still have to take care of yourself. I am very deeply grateful for the people in my life who are my emotional support system. Well, while helping everybody. But it's a choice, and you have to remember, people always talk about what's your why, don't forget about your why. My whys, and the reason why I get up every day. They're the reason. So people need to look at that and say, like, well, what am I doing? Why am I here? What is the purpose?
That totally makes sense because another of my statement is that are you existing or are you living? And a lot of times people they just go with the flow of just existing, trying to finish the next day and the next day and the next day, and then they realize, I mean, come to a point, where did life go?
I do not want to exist. I don't want to. I know for me personally, life has been way too short for that. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go through this. I want to be active in my life every single day. I'm great. The other difference with people with near death experiences is that we're grateful that we're alive every day. So we don't go, it's another day. No, for us it's no, it's another day. We're still here. So it's a different mind perspective.
I think so. I can totally empathize on that, and I can true that because again, it is true. Some of the podcasts. There was a gentleman who came in who was an athlete, and one fine day he realized that he's lost half his memory. He's gone into a short-term memory for the last 7 years. So for him, the goal has been he seeks for happiness every day. No second choice. Just looks for happiness. A very close friend of mine. She's survived. I mean, 4 times cancer survivor. Doesn't call herself as
Wow.
a survivor. She calls herself as a thriver because she says that's how I realize the beautiful aspect of living. So, Rachel, in the last more than few decades, wherein you have learned a lot of different element that has defined you, and you have been speaking to people, the network. Now, if I could ask for you to say maybe the top three or the top five core philosophies or core principles or core characteristics of who you are, what defines you to be a better human, which is not only reflective about your own self, but to the
Mhm.
listeners who are listening, is that maybe I could do that. So, what could be the top three or top five from your perception?
Are you contributing to this world?
Okay.
That would be number one. So if I'm at dinner sitting down with somebody and there's a group of people and people are complaining about problems in this country, problems across the world, my first question to them is, what are you doing to solve the problems that you're complaining about? And then they look at me and they go, what do you mean? I said, you've spent the last hour complaining about every single problem, but you're not doing anything to solve these problems. So that'd be number one. I choose to be part of the solution, not the problem. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, we need to blanket this world with love and kindness right now. That's what we need to do. It needs to go across this entire planet right now. And so that extra, I'll never stop using my voice for kindness. That extra step of holding the door open for somebody, you know, helping somebody when you see they're struggling, writing that. And these are easy things that people can do daily. You see something, and you see somebody, like maybe you're in the grocery store, maybe you're out and about, and you see that they need a little help. That matters. You can see that someone might be having a hard day. Maybe they need that extra kind word. Maybe they need a smile. We know that it takes more muscles. I'm sure you've heard the smile. They talk about the more,
Yes.
and so you can do that. You can do it. The question is, are you doing it, and are you willing to do it? And only people know that answer. It doesn't take a minute if you see somebody who's upset, they're struggling, to go, What do you need right now?
That's these two are so impactful. Uh, of course, before we can go to the next couple of ones, my thought over here is that I have asked these questions, especially when you're in what WhatsApp group. People would love to, because again, coming from a society where we have got three main pillars, we either complain, or we criticize, or we compare.
Judge or judge
Yeah.
or judge.
So those three C's that I always say is that because our societal way, I mean, maybe our parents did not know anything better, but that's how they have always built up. Is that you either complain, you criticize, or you compare.
Mm,
And so when I tend to listen, and especially when you're in different groups, people they say, so I also ask the same thing, is that what are you doing? So the question which comes back to me is that, oh, that's such a big problem. I do not know how I can handle it. So then of course, then it goes into a discussion, which is a different story. But that's a usual swan song for a lot of people to break the conversation. No, I not. It's too big, but I just feel I'm feeling for it. And so I say there are organizations which you could make your voice heard, approach them and find out what you can do.
mhm.
So that's one particular thing. The second one about building another human. For me, it is always a part is that there are no strangers, only friends you have not met.
Correct. And you and I both know that it's a huge part of the Indian culture. It's a huge part, to sit down, have a cup of tea together, visit. But that's number one. Number one for Indians is family. It is culture. It and those are the moments when we're sitting down with our best friends. Those are the moments that matter in life.
True. What were the other ones? So apart from do unto others, what do you expect others to do unto you? And the second one is reach out. What were the other ones which you believe so firmly about that defines Rachel Beck?
We can do better
Okay.
as humans. I'm also really huge on etiquette, and that's something. And I went to etiquette school. It's something that I feel needs to be brought back to this world right now. It's not a dying art at all whatsoever. Whatever people say about etiquette, it is not a dying art, and there are a bunch of us trying to bring it back. So I think that's another part of it. We're trying to bring back manners to society, which is so very missing.
Okay. Here I would ask a question is that people who are faced with adversities, okay,
Mm.
how do you reframe that as a catalyst for growth and purpose?
How do you reframe it?
Yeah. Because again, people are living or existing day to day,
Hmm.
paycheck to paycheck. But how do you reframe that mindset about adversity towards growth and purpose?
You dig deep. And when I say you dig deep inside your soul to find it. Is it easy? No. Could it be exhausting to have to do it? Some people, they have been through so much trauma that they are physically exhausted on a cellular level, right? But yet they're still out there and they're
Okay.
thriving.
When we dig deep again, I go back to what Bernie Brown had mentioned about the power of vulnerability. But
Mm.
over here in this particular world, people are scared to be showing their particular wounds. And the word which you use beautifully is being judged.
I dream of a day, Thomas. I dream of a day when people stop criticizing each other, when people stop condemning each other, when people stop judging each other. You have no, I walk under a blanket of judgment and criticism. The things that complete strangers who don't even know me, what I wake up to every morning and DM, which I block them obviously, but I mean, it's a constant condemnation. And I just go, okay, not for me. So you have to learn, like, you have a choice of what you take in and what you let out,
Hmm.
right? And I make that choice. So if someone says something negative to me, it's in, out, on its way. I choose to focus on the kind, positive people in this world.
Beautiful. Let's move a little to the present and the future. So, if you could, what are the projects that you're working on, or is there something, a passion project that you would be working on in the near future, or something that makes your soul sing?
I'm working on something for mental health,
Hmm.
which really can't discuss right now, but it's gonna help. It will help a lot of people. That's a big passion project for me.
Hmm. Okay. Anything
We,
else? Yes, sir.
yeah, no, excuse me. We need to be that hand for people right now that are dealing with mental health.
Okay. Maybe I'm biased, I'm judgmental, maybe, but this one, maybe again in North America and Europe, etc., it is still accepted. But there are many, many countries, including India, where mental health is now given that particular. It may be happening in pockets of cities or some organizations, but I've seen a lot of disparity when people feel challenged about how they feel. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that there's going to be a day where the stigma's gone. And it affects, mental health is one of those things. It affects everybody, every, every age, every background. It affects every single human being. And I think the more that, because now it is acceptable to sit and have these conversations, people are having it. They're checking in on people, really going, how are you doing? No, really, how are you truly doing? So things are changing, and there are. I went to school for psychology. I'm minored in psych, and I minored in gender studies. So we studied this a lot. And
Hmm.
I actually took a class on called cultural psychology because it's so important to understand the psychology behind cultures, right? So what might work in this country might not necessarily work for another. What is acceptable? America is very behind mental health. It's really, really important to us.
That statement is a little shocking to me because I thought America is one of quite ahead in mental health.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Okay.
that yeah, that is very, very important to us. Very, very important.
Okay. So, Rachel, just being mindful of the time, is there any parting words or statements or ideology that you would like to tell the listeners?
Yeah. Remember you're enough. Remember you're special. Remember there's gonna be some days that are hard, but to reach out and that we're gonna be here. And I want to remind your listeners that they're not alone.
Yep. Again, as I mentioned, guys, I will be putting out Rachel's contact information in the comments. Do reach out to her, and if not, if, it may not be challenged, but could be somebody else who's having a challenge. Maybe you could ask them to reach out, or it may be that your life is good, amazing, but if there's something that you can learn to help another fellow brother or a sister, do that, because end of the day, as we have been just talking, is that it's about being kind to one another. Here in this conversation, what I've just learned is that the transformative power of vulnerability, kindness, and grace. We also spoke about how to reframe adversity for your growth And we have just seen how Rachel's mindset is. It's about not only helping our community, but also going to the last individuals and make making a difference, inspiration, empowering others. So, Rachel, with this, I would conclude today's session. Thank you so very much for your space and time. Much gratitude. Let me just
Thank
toggle.
you very much for having me.